But this is it. That's it. Essentially, we've got no answer, but we are covering this up, just so you know. You won't be getting the truth. Promises made. Promises broken.
So recently, Dave Smith had a podcast where he delves into the subject of the Trump administration covering up the Epstein story. This in relation to the recent DOJ and FBI release that said not only wasn't there a client list, but there's no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein engaged in blackmail or killed himself. You know, some of this stuff contradicts what administration officials had said just weeks ago. So Trump weighed into that, and Pam Bondi weighed into that today. Let's get Dave's take on it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Let's start with Donald Trump being asked about Jeffrey Epstein, and then we'll listen to Donald Trump's response and Pam Bondi's response. Let's go to the Trump one first.
Sure. Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape?
Okay, pause it for a second. I just to be clear on this, when he brought up Alex Acosta, and so Alex Acosta was Donald Trump's labor secretary in his first administration, but he's the guy. He was a U.S. attorney for many years. He's the guy who prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein the first time he got caught. And so the way the reporter even phrased it is a little bit off. He says that Acosta allegedly said that Epstein was intelligence, but there's no alleged about it. It's in court documents. Like, he said it.
Yeah, this is exactly true. And Acosta, it was the prosecutor that gave Epstein that sweetheart deal in, I believe, 2006, where he basically got house release. He got to, go between his different properties. At one point, he got to essentially control a wing of the sheriff's department during his punishment and bring people in, and they even built a television for him. This guy was treated like royalty as a prisoner. It was just absurd. And Acosta, yes, said not only that he went easy on Epstein because he heard that he was intelligence, but also that he was above his pay grade. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a rumor. This was actually said, and Dave's totally correct about it.
And he didn't say, it's not that he said he was in the intelligence. He said that the CIA came to him and told him to go easy on the guy because he's connected to intelligence. So this was like, I'm saying, again, it's not the way the question is phrased. And I don't think the reporter meant to do it this way, but the way it's phrased almost sounded like some labor secretary allegedly said he was in intelligence, but it's actually much, much more devastating than that.
Totally right. He's totally true here. It almost seems to have given Bondi an out the way the question was asked. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad the question was asked, but again, he's right about this.
It's the prosecutor on the case who gave him a sweetheart deal. When asked about why he was giving him a sweetheart deal, said it's because the intelligence agencies came to him and told him this guy was connected. So just a clarification on that, because it is much more damning when you say it the right way. But anyway, here, let's play Trump's response.
Sure. If
Did I just interrupt for a second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy?
Yeah, we are. We have to clamor for it because you keep hiding it. And so did Biden. It's a big party and we're not part of it. And this was a giant sex trafficking ring that stretched up to the highest levels of government. So you're damn right we're still talking about it. We're still going to ask questions about it because guess what? We know you want it to go away, but we're going to try to keep it going. We need to clamor about this such that this case doesn't end up like the JFK assassination, where generally Americans had questions, they knew in the back of their minds something was wrong. This stuff didn't add up, but essentially let that go. We can't let that happen again. So yeah, we are still talking about it.
Great. That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration. But
Actually, it seems like a legitimate question regarding not just some petty crime, but again, a sex trafficking ring that stretched to the highest levels of government, the highest level of people in power, and you promised during your campaign to be transparent about this and release the information. I'll remind you that. But yeah.
you go ahead.
I mean, sorry. That's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in my fucking life. This is like, it's like on the level because, you know, I mean, they had some time to prepare for this, right? Like, what was it? This is 36 hours after it was reported that they were covering up the Epstein thing. So it's like they had some time. But why is Donald Trump responded like your girlfriend went through your phone and found out you were cheating or something like that? It was like, what about, how could you do this? Privacy. What are you? Well, you can't go through my phone. It's like, dude, they already found out. Like, what are you talking about here? This is his thing. You asked me that now?
Yeah, it's not like administrative officials even refuse to discuss this. They discuss this routinely. We know from Pam Bondi, she said that the client list was on her table. She was reviewing it along with JFK and MLK files, and she answered that question, not regarding the file. They're trying to spin this now by saying, hey, Bondi didn't understand the question. She wasn't talking about the client list. She was talking about the entirety of the file. But Dave's right. This is a pathetic answer. It was a really big deflection to try to get away from this thing. And, you know, the Trump administration blundered this completely. And I knew that the day they handed out those stupid binders that said Epstein Files Part 1 with no new information in those binders. And by the way, some of the information in those binders, according to Sagar and Jetty, I didn't know this prior to today, had documents that were actually redacted, parts of them redacted that were actually unredacted at a later time. This is just so insane.
When there's floods? There's floods in Texas. What are you talking about? We're doing so many great things and so many bad things. How do you ask this question a day and a half after we dropped it? Why would you ask me this question now? How dare you bring this up the first time I've faced reporters since we announced that we're
Yeah, I didn't think of that angle, but yeah, I mean, this line of questioning was going to come. They had time to prepare for it. I guess this is the angle that they decided to go with. Of course, the questions are going to be asked when you're clearly doing the same thing, but more brazen than the Biden administration in this, in covering it up by saying that, no, there's no blackmail, despite implying in the past that there was. There was media found in a safe of presumably footage from his CCTV footage, that the client list doesn't exist, which Bondi said it did, that, you know, Kash Patel said there's no footage from the cell where, well, I guess there is, but it's not the kind of footage that would yield any answers. The whole thing is a sham.
Covering this up. Like, what type of response is this? It's really sad that there was flooding in Central Texas. So now anyway, about Jeffrey Epstein, like what? I don't even know what to say to this. This is just so fucking pathetic. You couldn't come up with anything better than that. And of course, what Donald Trump here does, right, is he's trying to get Pam Bondi to not even say anything. He's going, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, why do you? She was asked the question. He interrupts and goes, do you even want to waste your time with this?
Yeah, it actually seems like she wants to answer, and I think she did answer eventually. But yeah, Dave's spot on, I think, in analyzing this, and this is a stupid response in so many ways. This is not one of Trump's clever moments where he answers someone. It's a deflection designed to completely bury this forever, and we're never supposed to get the answers now.
This guy's asking about Jeffrey. People have been talking about this for years. He goes, yes, Donald Trump. People have been talking about it for years. You know, some of the people who were talking about it for years were you, when you promised to release all of the files. Pam Bondi, when she promised to release all of the files, said that the client list was on her desk, then like essentially humiliated a bunch of right-wing influencers by saying that they had given them all of the stuff.
Yeah, that was when the jig was up because they handled this so poorly. Even if they were going to cover it up and they had decided that at that point, that was such a counterintuitive decision. It blew this story up and made them seem like total losers trying to skirt the issue through this scheme. It seemed like a total ploy, a PR stunt to get these influencers involved in it. And it doesn't seem to me like the influencers knew exactly what they were getting. It does seem to be that this was orchestrated by the administration. But I knew the day that happened is that we weren't getting answers. I just knew it in my heart, because to do this is just a total deflection. It's just a scam. The American people were scammed. And, you know, some dissidents supported Trump because of this issue and transparency into this issue. It was a major cause for some of his support, but hey, we're being given the middle finger by this administration. But again, it's more upfront than what the Biden administration even did, which, yeah, covered it up too, but wasn't quite as brazen about it even.
Your FBI director, your deputy FBI director, yeah, they were the ones talking about it for years. The point was that was supposed to culminate in you releasing the information. And now you've gone back on that. What? I don't know, Rob. What? This is the most nonsense answer ever.
I already swept this under the rug. Why are we looking under the rug? I already swept it there. This feels like a Biden with nobody saying that. Nobody said it. Really? Well, because I asked you it because I just read it in the newspaper. So people are saying it. This is, I mean, we already said on the last episode, at a minimum, it's showcasing the fact that they don't want to look into this and they don't want to have transparency. And the fact that this didn't happen a week ago, this didn't happen 2 months ago, it's not on the day he bombed Iran. This is a very reasonable question to be fielding at a press conference, particularly if you're sitting next to Pam Bondi the day after it happened. It's also, I mean, Donald Trump's pretty good on news optics. I think this is the most widely reported story right now.
Totally is. And I think it's not by coincidence that the FBI and DOJ waited until the big abominable bill passed to unleash this revelation, this sham that Americans would never accept. Even some of the core faithful MAGA zealots don't accept it. Yeah, I've seen some people out there saying, yeah, this is 4D chess because it gives them leverage over the deep state. Just absurd lines of reasoning to justify this. But there are a lot of people that supported Trump that have a serious problem with it, and you do see that too.
Everyone's interested, the same as everyone was interested when they said, hey, Epstein killed himself. And then, you know, the entire world was like, I don't think he killed himself. And so now it's the day after you guys are brushing it under the rug and people want to know, so why are you brushing this under the rug? What is the information here? Can you give us a spin? Can you give us a story? And Donald Trump's just going, shame on you for even asking us that question when we have other things to deal with. And it's a, by the way, fair question about the footage, which I'm going to guess they're going to say it's a reset at 11:59 to new security footage or whatever. But Pam Bondi's right there. You released information yesterday that has clear questions about it. The idea that you're not going to have to field these questions is pretty ridiculous.
It really reminds me of, I don't know, do you ever see the, goddamn, there's the best sketch show ever, but on the Chappelle show, he did like a Black Bush, where he was, this was during the George W. Bush years, where he was President Bush or whatever.
I remember this, and I absolutely adored that show. If you're my age, I'm almost 42. I'll be 42 in 1 month. You remember that show if you like comedy and how brilliant those sketches were. You couldn't get away with some of the stuff he did, like he did back then. But I love this reference here.
And he's at one point, they're like, he's at the press conference and they're asking him about the war in Iraq. And they're like, sir, you said there were weapons of mass destruction and then you invaded the country and we have found no weapons of mass destruction there. And Dave Chappelle, playing Black President Bush, goes, why do you guys keep asking me about the war? I got that under control. He goes, what you got to worry about is there's gays getting married. And like, it's just hilarious. It's literally on that level. Like, don't ask about that. Don't ask about that.
Yeah, it's not like this is the biggest story in news right now, and it has been since this news was released, like 2 days. And I think it will be for some time going forward, despite the propensity of the administration to try to subordinate this below other topics like Texas, like Trump is trying to do now.
There was flooding in Texas. This is really, we're doing so many great things and so many sad things. And you're asking about this hugely relevant story. All right, let's go
well,
to
sometimes Donald
go.
Trump bluster is just on full display, that he doesn't want to ever have to explain himself or give any reasoning, and that is kind of his marketing tool, is just always harping on best, greatest, I did it, it's going to work great, just wait and see, it was Biden's mess. He kind of never gives any reasoning ever, and that kind of works on a lot of people. It's like a hypnosis of Donald Trump just going best, greatest, no, it's going to work. And he does a good job of never even like opening up the cans of worms of people's questions. And so I think for a lot of the Trump loyalists that buy into it, you're kind of seeing on full display, this is who Donald Trump is. And at the moment, he is trying to brush this under the rug. He doesn't want to discuss it. And so he's going, shame on you for even bringing this up. There's no reason to get into it.
You know, there is something about it, though, that this one, I got to say, not just this one. I mean, look, obviously Iran was a huge one. And, you know, the fact that, at least seemingly for the moment, this did not turn into a wider war or escalate into, you know, a catastrophe. I mean, look, there were people got killed in the thing, so it's not like it was pretty catastrophic if you're their family, but the fact that that didn't turn into a catastrophe certainly helped. But
there's still time. I would wait to make a judgment on that. He's right about as of now. But if that could spiral into a regional war if hostilities continue, especially because Israel's attacked so many of its neighbors over the last few years and has laid claim to several countries in a propensity to support the expansion of West Bank settlements. So I'm with Dave here, but it's too soon to tell on that, I think.
But there was no question, like the Iran thing, you know, really tore at Trump's base and really divided MAGA, and obviously with, you know, the hawks on one side and the really non-interventionists on the other. This, I got to say, there's something about this that, and this is what I'm seeing on social media from, you know, big Trump supporters and stuff. There's something about this one that's a particularly tough pill to swallow, though, especially because, you know, the right wing really, and correctly so, I believe, but they really went all in on this kind of like protecting children idea. You know, with like the crazy trans stuff, with all the crazy stuff in public schools, with like sex trafficking and all of these kind of different, you know, areas. They really like to find a way to just, you know, again, like I said yesterday on the show, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but it's not just like you're covering up criminal activity. You're covering up the systemic rape and torture of children.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great point. It was a focal point of the campaign. You know, Sound of Freedom, that movie, and everything that went along with it in the culture war from the right wing perspective, getting, you know, the trans issue away from children, you know, putting this on like just on a level that Americans were supposed to determine who to vote for on the basis of it. Transparency on the Epstein files. It's something that Biden never promised. And for this to just be shoved in our faces like this, they are laughing at the American people right now. You know, they're putting on a performance because they've all aligned on the propaganda of how this deflection is going to be sold. And now we're just supposed to buy it, I guess. I really hope that not everyone buys it, including Trump supporters, but Robbie was right. Some of them will justify this, and Trump doesn't always give the best answers. He basically does the contrary much of the time.
This is just that's too evil, man. Anyway, here is Pam Bondi's response after that.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
Well, if you listen to the video, he clearly asked about the client list itself and not the file. So You know, you can use this excuse and it's being spun that way, but it's not like she came out with a correction the next day in a press release that said, hey, they asked me about the client list, but my answer pertains only to the file. I didn't talk about the client list. She didn't say that afterward. So, you know, it does seem pretty convenient now to go back on that.
Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent.
As far as the child porn she's talking about right now, at that time, she characterized this as thousands of hours of children being molested. And that would be children being molested, no doubt. But she seemed to phrase it in a way in the context that it was Epstein's material that he had filmed. So, you know, this again seems very convenient now.
I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
All right, the blackmail thing, even the FBI, I believe, implied that blackmail was going on in the past, and it was revealed that the FBI had taken a safe that were full of digital media. It looked like CDs with labels on them, presumably the names of prominent people. This is known to exist. I believe that there's documentation that shows this. As far as the minute cut out of the camera footage, it's just insane beyond belief that even the footage that they had already edited to mass disseminate among the public to try to convince them of this narrative, it has a time skip in it, and she's giving an explanation. It may or may not be true, I don't know. But for that video that they had the opportunity to edit, to have that timestamp jump, it only raises more suspicions. This thing was boggled from beginning to end. How they're selling the propaganda, how they investigated it, how they handled it at first with the binders and that stupid ordeal. The whole thing is a sham.
And that's it on Epstein.
All right, and that's it on Epstein. That load of bullshit is all you're going to get. I'm sorry, it's just so funny when she goes, you saw the video which definitively... Okay, well, the video does it, but the evidence prior to the video, this is such utter bullshit. There has been no evidence at all presented that even indicates that he killed himself, which again, by the way, I've said this from the very beginning. I've never really been a Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself guy. Like, I think it's possible that he was like strong-armed into committing suicide. There's lots of different possibilities here. Just even if we knew that he did kill himself, there'd still be a mountain of very important questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. So even if you believe that he did kill himself or was pressured to, the guards allowed it, something like that, whatever, the more that is kind of acted like something of a red herring to some extent. Not completely. I do think that would be relevant to know, obviously, who killed him if they did. But it also kind of sidetracks from important discussions regarding, was he an intelligence asset? Did he work for the intelligence service of a foreign government, namely Israel's? Because he sure did have a lot of connections to Mossad. Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel and also was the chief of Mossad, was one of his best friends, visited him over 30 times, even lived with him during a long time. Robert Maxwell, Mossad agent, was essentially his mentor. That was the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. Les Wexner was also very well connected with the Israeli government. He was involved with Epstein. A lot of the signs point to that relationship, a potential Israeli-Mossad relationship. And if you're applying Occam's razor, that's an important question. So, yeah, right on, Dave.
But the video they show doesn't even, the video they released doesn't even show them taking his body out. It doesn't show anything. It's like a weird angle and just shows that no one passed through this camera at this particular time. We have no way of knowing, like, who were the other inmates that were around him? Where you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they gave us like a blueprint of the prison and showed how this one camera is the only way that anyone could access his cell. They just show you a camera angle.
Yeah, and in the camera angle, it shows 2 cells. It's not clear if either of those is Epstein's cell. We don't get a map or a key or any kind of diagram or floor plan like Dave is saying. And we don't have, footage from within the cell. That would be the nail in the coffin. That would be the final straw that would lead many people to be persuaded. And, people would always say, hey, that's AI or something, even though, it might be hard to dress up AI in such a way. Who knows? I'm not an expert on that sort of thing. That might raise questions. But we don't have relevant footage that definitively shows anything. We have footage of outside of a cell for, I think, a few minutes. This would require at least hours of footage and from within the cell to allow Americans to draw appropriate conclusions. We're not going to get that.
It's ridiculous. So they've given us nothing. And as she said, the only honest thing that Pam Bondi said in that ridiculous rant there is that that's it. That's all you're getting. Oh, and was he connected to intelligence? Well, we just don't know.
I think they know. I'm just going to go out there and say it. I do think they know because their tune has totally changed. The tune especially of Kash Patel and Bondi once they entered office. After making these allegations that Epstein didn't kill himself, they're going to be super transparent. They're going to get all this information released to the public. I think they got on the inside. They saw the truth and they're covering it up. That's what I think. Because nothing else really makes sense. At one point, they even said, hey, we're reviewing documents on the Epstein case for potential redactions for national security concerns. Think about that. Why would there be national security concerns about Epstein and a sex trafficking ring? Only if his connections to a foreign intelligence service or a domestic intelligence service were particularly embarrassing. That's why. So that's why I think that's the most reasonable answer.
And it's not, again, it's not as if, as the reporter asked in the question, it was Trump's labor secretary when he was a prosecutor who was on record saying this. It's not as if it's just some random person, or it's not like a podcaster said this, although there's plenty of that too. But this is it. That's it. Essentially, we've got no answer, but we are covering this up, just so you know. You won't be getting the truth. Promises made. Promises broken.
That's the truth. The new regime sure seems a whole hell of a lot similar to the old regime, that's for sure. As George Carlin said, it's a big club, and you ain't part of it. Well, the cover-up continues. It's a uniparty affair. It's a bipartisan affair. It really seems to indicate that there are high-ranking people within the government, potentially the deep state, potentially this administration, that are in on it. There's no other reason to make this such a pressing campaign issue if that is not the case. Again, there's a lot of questions about this thing, but some generalities I think can be drawn about how these people have behaved, the evidence out there, and what they've done to try to sell their narrative. And it does seem duplicitous. And, I said it before, the Biden administration is culpable for this too. It's not like they were transparent about this, but in some ways, it does seem more fraudulent from this administration, who actually made a point about this in their campaign to be transparent about it. We haven't gotten anything. Bondi basically closed the door on that. Trump tried to deflect even more than Bondi. Bondi at least answered the questions. The answers are not convincing, especially when she said it definitively shows he killed himself. That's just so preposterous, and Dave was right to laugh at it because it truly was absurd. But hey, that's where we're at. I don't know if we'll ever get answers to this, but I've said in a different video that the only way I think we do get answers is if it's a whistleblower. Someone that actually is in the know comes out at great risk to themselves, by the way, like Snowden did in exposing the NSA mass data collection scheme. They come out and reveal the truth. That's what I'm hoping and praying for, because right now they're claiming that this sex trafficking ring that Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted under and is rotting in prison for 20 years over. They trafficked underage girls to no one. There's no clients. It doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make sense that Epstein killed himself if there was literally no evidence that they can share with the public. I'd love to see those juror discussions that led them to convict her. So that's where we're at. Let me know down below, am I off base about this? Is Dave Smith right? Are we ever going to get answers to the Epstein saga? Is there a chance that a whistleblower comes forward at some point? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to Dave Smith as well. He's awesome, great podcast. And please consider becoming a YouTube member by clicking the join button below. If you do that, you'll support the channel financially, which I thank you for, and you'll get access to all of my videos in advance of their general public release on YouTube. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.